The level design is the most important part of any video game. That's objectively. It's not an opinion, it's more of a fact. You can always say you prefer the graphics or the story or the mechanics or the characters or the universe or the cooperative experience, but without good level design, no matter how good any one piece of those are, it doesn't matter. Without good level design, the graphics just mean you have a really nice, pretty picture. Without good level design, the mechanics are just things you could do, but the maps fail you. Without good level design, a vibrant universe can be extremely boring. You see, level design is both an art and a science. If you nail the science and the layout is unique and fun to play for thousands of hours, you'll have a good map. Nailing the science means that you've created a playing field that is playable for thousands of times, with every game being unique, like a chess game with thousands of combinations. It's a beautiful symphony of humans making decisions and reacting to other people's decisions. Perfectly crafted layout is always a chess game and will never end up being like a game of checkers. The science we've talked about so far is only in the broadest of terms. It's just the layout. The mechanics are also a huge part of the science. It's a huge aspect of how the game works, and when planning a map are, in addition to the chess game, that is the layout, are something you have to take into account. Every game's mechanics are vastly different. The wall-running maps from Titanfall do not operate similar to Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege's offensive, defensive style levels. Just like how a Halo campaign wouldn't really work as a Zelda story. One, because the depth of the level would be non-existent and the mechanics wouldn't work at all, and also because the art wouldn't be there at all. Level design is a science, yes, but it is also an art. The levels I just listed from every single one of those games is only a design until the art takes hold and adds it to the game's universe. An environment is the coal engine that the graphics burn and the characters drive. The science is what makes it fun, but the art is what suspends disbelief. The world that you place yourself in lets you forget about whatever may plague your mind. It lets you truly believe you are a Halo guy or a drugged maniac. It's fun to pretend you actually work on a spaceship. Every single game, if the art is there, is a role-playing game. It's what makes goofing around in an open world game or creating your own goals with friends in multiplayer all the more fun. You have to be able to actually pull yourself in. It has to be not something that you're looking at on a screen. It has to be something that you're actually a part of, and the art is what does this. In this video, I'm mostly focusing on multiplayer maps. If you want me to make one about the same topic but for single player maps, let me know down in the comments. To have a good multiplayer map, you need both the science and the art to be there, but more importantly, you need them to be there 10 to 15 times. You have to have many multiplayer levels to play. With most games, you have quite a few maps. The example I'm going to be using in this video of a game that falls short in both of these categories without many people even knowing it is Titanfall 2's multiplayer. Titanfall 2's multiplayer fails the test in both science and art on an overwhelming majority of its maps. This is not at all to be confused with the single-player campaign of Titanfall 2, which is one of the greatest shooter stories of all time. And if you haven't played it, I highly recommend it. It beats out every single game in its competition with both the science and the art. The level design in the campaign of Titanfall 2 is something else. For a little bit of context, if you're not super familiar with the Titanfall series, the first game released in 2014 was created by the original Call of Duty creators. It released as a game focusing on wall running, special equipment, and everything that revolved around the Titans, which were giant mech-type robots that fell from the sky and you could climb inside when you're all done running around on the walls. The maps in the first Titanfall game were extremely unique with very intricate and extremely diverse settings. The maps were well crafted to fit Titans and humans alike. Every mechanic was accounted for, and the maps were made to complement this. Unfortunately, this game was exclusively multiplayer but had a 6v6 campaign that was actually taking place in multiplayer, and depending on which team you are, you would fight between a corporation or the militia. Titanfall 2, which came out in 2017, improved the feature to have a single player campaign and also a separate multiplayer. Now, the campaign was the bee's knees. It was the multiplayer that lost what the first game had. Every single map in the first game was crafted to feature both pilots and titans in a very balanced, fun way. Maps had plenty of space for wall running and for titans to play. Maps like Rise had huge walls for pilots and alleys for titans. Colony had streets and habitat-like structures that were interwoven to create the perfect map for pilots and titans to fight in an interlaced form. In War Games, the multiplayer map had abstract geometry and wall-running bridges separate from any other level. P.S. How awesome is it that you can see maps from one another? Like, you can see the spaceship crash map from Colony and you can see Boneyard from Rise. That is just too cool. The list goes on of maps that were perfectly crafted layouts, but Titanfall 1 also nails the art on every single level. Boneyard is a boneyard full of pterodactyls and giant dinosaurs that you see throughout the game and are actually important to the plot later on. Odyssey is a downed corporation ship that you learn about and is how a couple of the main protagonists got into the story you're playing through. Angel City is a corporation city filled with cherry blossom shops and wanted posters for the main characters in the campaign. Every piece of art is woven into the layout and it creates a beautiful dance. The maps aren't just fun, they're pretty. Every single one tells a story, it intrigues mystery. Why is this map only halfway done being coded? How did this ship get beached here? You believe you are a pilot and are going from vista to vista, each of which have stood the test of time and are all fun to play on. Titanfall 2's maps, by comparison, are hilariously bad. The release maps on a layout level are so bad in such an obvious way, it legitimately hurt to play on them when the beta came out. It's curious how some team that created all the perfect maps from Titanfall 1 and created the Apex Legends story, which are both great maps and great layouts, was able to create the level design on all these multiplayer maps that is just so bad. Now remember, Titanfall is just our example. These critiques can be placed on any game, and every game almost always does fall short in at least a couple of these categories, and it doesn't make it a bad game or not fun to play. I myself have a great time playing Titanfall 2. This is just a critique about the level design and why some maps I actually quit the game when I see them coming up and dodge them. First off, you have the worst offender probably on this list, and it's a map called Homestead, which is a giant open field. You tell me, how does a giant open field play into wall running? You have plenty of space for the Titans, but no space for them to really interact in a unique way. And from the art point of view, how is an open field sound creative and awe-inspiring? It fails to inspire mystery or beauty. It builds no character, no universe, nothing at all. This field would be the same as in a Star Wars game, and if you think this field is interesting, maybe you should try visiting Kansas. You'll be amazed. Just a bunch of open fields. This is the case for a majority of the maps in the game. You have two bases that are just military bases that could be, the layouts could be placed in any other game and there wouldn't really be much to be said. This is a game where in the story you have moving factories that transform entire cities, a transformable layout, and the skybox can be changed. You have bases in the sky on stilts at one point. You even have a level where you are given the ability to fucking time travel, and you choose to have multiplayer levels this boring as an open wheat field. That is a crime. You created one of the most cool mechanics in any recent game and failed to utilize it in a multiplayer sense at all. A mechanic so cool that Halo Forgers and Halo had to create your mechanic in their own multiplayer because it wasn't in Titanfall. So it's in Halo now instead of Titanfall, when Titanfall came up with the idea. You could have levels unlike any other layouts that are completely interchangeable. Titanfall 2's multiplayer had some awesome base mechanics, pinning down advanced mobility better than any other franchise. They were the Cadillac of mobility. But Titanfall 2 was plagued by worlds and levels that didn't connect to the universe's art style, creativity, or wonder, along with failed design layouts that poorly supported the amazing abilities that they added. This video is just an example. Titanfall isn't a horrible game, it's just a good example for this essay type discussion video. I am not saying that it had no maps or that the game wasn't fun to play. If you enjoyed the game, I'm glad. Personally, I had a pony parade of a time playing through the game. The recycled maps from the first game were excellent, like I said earlier, and the campaign was the cat's pajamas. So if you enjoyed the game and you like it, I'm glad. Thanks for watching, and until next time, this was GDTaco. And of course, peace.